Marcos Jr. doon sa kanyang komento kay PRRD, di sinungaling din pala ito si Amy.
Oo, so kung ano yung parang nag-submit ka ng listahan, may blanco na approve sa plenaryo, tapos in-enroll mo. Ang ibig sabihin ng enroll, natapos na yung parte ng Kongreso, in-enroll mo ngayon yung kopya para pirmahan ng Pangulo. So ano yung in-enroll mo? Yung kulang o kinur nyo? The document was cured at the level of enrollment. Mas malala yun kasi insertions yon. Hindi ka nagpapadala, hindi nag-a-approve ng BICAM report na may blanco. Kasi pag binigay mo sa technical committee yung pag-fill up ng blanco, wala namang karapatan ang technical committee na gumawa noon. Trabahong tamad yun, no? Dapat ilinagay doon sa kopya ng report sa bawat chamber na yun ang ina-approve. So, kaya kailangan nating makita, nabudol ba ang mga congressman at mga senador? Kung talagang may blank, dapat hindi yun na-enroll. Dapat, pinix muna nila bago nagbotohan para klarado ano yung line item. Kasi ang problema niyan, alam mo ang ibig sabihin ng blanco, walang line item. Yes, surprising itong mga nangyayari dahil alam nyo ang BICAM report is the reconciling of the different contrary positions. So imposibleng may blanco. Traditionally and historically, nagkakaroon lang yan ng blanco kung in principle, nag-agree na ang mga conferees, tapos ang secretariat ang mag-fill in the blanks. Pero kasi merong konsepto na nasa bicameral level, tapos BICAM report, dadalhin yan sa both chambers, yun ang aaprubahan. Para yung naaprubahan, ang tinatawag dun yung enrolled copy, kumpleto na dapat yun, hindi yung dumadating sa presidente na may blank. So kung may blank sa bicameral report at nagbotohan na may blank, technically may infirmity yung pinagbotohan. At dapat yun ay invalid dahil hindi ka naman pwedeng mag-approve ng isang General Appropriations Act na base sa blanco. Marami yung sinabi ni Congressman Ungab, in-identify niya anong pahina sa BICAM report ang bakante, in-identify rin niya kung saang pahina ng BICAM report, kung anong ahensya ng BICAM report. Nakakalungkot dahil ito ay hindi nangyayari na hindi inaayos bago magbotohan sa BICAM. So yung reaction ni Executive Secretary Bersamin, sinundan ng reaksyon ng Pangulo, magkaibang dokumento ang pinag-uusapan nila. Si dating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte at si Congressman Ungab, ang kanilang hawak ay bicameral conference report. Ang sinasabi naman ni Executive Secretary at ni Presidente Marcos ay General Appropriations Act. Yun yung enrolled copy na ibinigay sa kanila ng Kongreso patapos mag-approve yung dalawang chambers para nila pag-aralan. Makikita natin, Admar, no? Nag-veto message ang Pangulo. So technically, dapat ang binito niya ay kompletong dokumento. So tama rin yung sinasabi mo na ang pinanggagalingan ng enrolled copy ay ang BICAM report. Kung sa BICAM hindi kompleto, paano ang pinagbotohan nyo? nagboto kayo dun sa pagkakakulang sa Department of Agriculture, sa karamihan kasi Department of Agriculture Ah, nagboto kayo doon sa National Irrigations Administration na kulang-kulang. Nagboto kayo doon sa fishery. So ang makikita mo, karamihan niyan ay nasa unprogrammed appropriation. So kung nasa unprogrammed appropriation at kanyang vinito ang ilan sa unprogrammed appropriations to the amount of 128 billion, meron sigurong pagkukulang. Tama naman yung sinabi na ang buong ahensya, ang DBM at ang Office of the Executive Secretary, tinitingnan talaga nila yung mga enrolled copy. Pero ang infirmity doon, hindi doon sa level nila, pero doon sa level ng Kongreso. No? Ano yung pinagbotohan nila? Sino ang hindi pumirma doon sa BICAM report? Kung titingnan natin ang hindi pumirma sa BICAM report sa parte ng Senado, anim na members ng panel, si De La Rosa, Cayetano, Go, Legarda, Hontiveros, Pimentel. Sa side ng Kongreso, naandyan si si Congressman Neptali Gonzales II at saka si Rep. John Duavit. May dalawa pa na tinitingnan namin dun sa hindi pumirma sa BICAM report. Ngayon, iba naman yung bumoto ba sa plenary. Okay? Siguro ang napakahalagang dapat natin makita dun sa finalization ng BICAM report, yung mga chairs, yung chairpersons, ang nag-aayos dapat at nagkokompleto nung mga nung BICAM report. First time ni Senator Grace po umupo bilang chairman ng Finance Committee, samantalang si Congressman Ko has been there since 2022. Na ang pagkakaalam ko, dahil first time ni ni Senator po umupo bilang chairman, si Senate President Chis Escudero ay malaki ang role sa pagpasa at paghihimay nitong bicameral conference report.
Opo, dito naman tayo sa statement naman ng Department of Budget and Management. Kasi doon sa ang na-mention lang doon sa statement ni Bersamin and dito kay Marcos Jr. patungkol doon sa GAA. Hindi na-mention yung sa BICAM. Now ngayon dito sa statement ng Department of Budget and Management, basahin ko lang, and I quote, "This is to address malicious and irresponsible allegations surrounding the fiscal year 2025 General Appropriations Act or GAA. First, allow us to categorically deny the spreading accusation stating that FY 2025 GAA signed by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. contains blank pages or figures. These allegations are completely false and reckless. What has been presented by certain misinformed individuals are pages from the Bicameral Conference Committee report and not the General Appropriations Bill nor the GAA. It is important to note that under 1987 Constitution, it is the bill, the GAB, and not the BICAM report that is officially submitted for the consideration and approval or veto of the President. It is the GAB with all its details that is controlling and is presented to the President. Once signed, the GAB becomes the law, the GAA. To reiterate, the bill presented to and signed by the President is a complete document with no blank pages or missing details. In no case does the executive issue a GAA with blank pages or figures. With this, we urge the Filipinos to be mindful, cautious, and first verify information. Ang problema dito, na-mention nila yung bike cam pero hindi nila na-mention dito na inamin nila na may blanco sa bike cam. Doon pa rin sila sa GAA, Prof. Malu.
Alam mo, Admar, sa tingin ko ang kulang dyan sa statement ng DBM, wala silang pakialam sa BICAM report. Okay? Hindi executive powers ang BICAM report. Legislative yan. Ngayon, kung blanco ang pinagbotohan sa plenaryo, hindi rin tama na GAB ang basihan. Ang basihan ay ang BICAM. Kasi ang BICAM, kung titingnan natin sa terminolohiya ng legislative body, siya yung may version ang House, may version ang Senado. Kung magkaiba, nagba-BICAM. At yung BICAM na yan, dadalhin mo sa chamber, sa House at sa Senate para magbotohan sa plenaryo. Nandun tayo sa level na yon. Kaya ang sinasabi ko, magkaiba yung sinasabi. Kasi yung sinasabi niyang GAB, ang GAB nanggagaling sa House dahil sa Constitution, sila ang may right na mauna sa budget process at nagre-react ang Senado. The point na may pagkakaiba sila, kailangang reconcile kasi nasa saligang batas natin ang aaprubahan sa plenaryo pagkatapos ng BICAM ay reconciled version. Ngayon, kung reconciled version at maraming blanco, may mali na, ulitin ko may infirmity sa legislative process. So kung ano yung parang nag-submit ka na listahan, may blanco na approve sa plenaryo tapos in-enroll mo. Ang ibig sabihin ng enroll, natapos na yung parte ng Kongreso, in-enroll mo ngayon yung kopya para pirmahan ng Pangulo. So ano yung in-enroll mo? Yung kulang o kinur nyo, the document was cured at the level of enrollment. Mas malala yun kasi insertions yon. Hindi ka nagpapadala, hindi nag-a-approve ng BICAM report na may blanco. Kasi pag binigay mo sa technical committee yung pag-fill up ng blanco, wala namang karapatan ang technical committee na gumawa noon. Trabahong tamad yun, no? Dapat ilinagay doon sa kopya ng report sa bawat chamber na yun ang ina-approve. So, kaya kailangan nating makita nabudol ba ang mga congressman at mga senador. Kung talagang may blank, dapat hindi yun na-enroll. Dapat pinix muna nila bago nagbotohan para klarado ano yung line item. Kasi ang problema niyan, alam mo ang ibig sabihin ng blanco, walang line item. So kung wala kang line item, technically, walang pondo doon sa activity na yon. Ang pangalawa, narinig natin ang Pangulo over the weekend na sabi niya ibuboost ang budget ng Department of Education. What is boost? Magre-realign ka? Hindi pa nga na pre-print, no? Wala pa nga kopya ng printed copy. Nagpaplano ka na mag-realign? So saan ka magre-realign? Saan ka kukuha ng pang-realign? Yun ang very problematic in the way they are defending the blanks. Imagine mo, 3 na ang nagsalita since kaninang umaga. Kaninang umaga si ES at sinasabi false news daw. Bandang malapit sa tanghali ang Pangulo at sinasabi wala daw ganun nangyari. Ngayon naman si DBM at ang sinasabi ang GAB. Bakit sila ang nagre-react? Hindi ba dapat ang mag-react ang lehislatura para sabihin sa taong bayan, ito po ang kopya ng BICAM report. Wala pong blank. Di ba? Ang problema kasi nila, hindi sila transparent. Yung proseso ng BICAM hindi transparent. Kaya walang minutes. Ngayon lang, no? Simula nitong 19th Congress, ang nagiging practice, walang minutes at walang record, no? Dapat yan meron. Kasi that forms part and parcel of the legislative intent of Congress. Kaya nakakabahala itong mga news na lumalabas kasi kung totoo ay talagang parang ginawa lamang labada ang budget, hawhawan kung kailangan madumi, babalik ta rin kung kailangan yung kabila ang makita. So it behooves the leadership of the House and the Senate to once and for all come out and say the blanks, kasi may dokumento, Admar eh. Yun ang nakakabahala. Ibig mong sabihin, false news itong mga dokumento, hindi naman siguro pwedeng mag-imbento na may pahina at may section kung ano ang blanco. So, in the face of that document that you are flashing, hindi ba dapat ang Kongreso, si Speaker Martin Romualdez at si Senate President Chis Escudero should come out publicly and tell everyone, iyan pong ginagamit ng dokumento ay hindi ang final document. So ang tanong ko, kung hindi yan ang final document, anong pinagbotohan? Yung final document o yung dokumentong may blanco? Kasi telling yan, pag blanco, anong inaprubahan mo? So you're giving, the power of the purse is with Congress. So you're giving leeway to the executive branch to chop and mangle the budget that is what? Less than a month old? Nakakatakot yan.
Opo, and kung meron bang possible na paglabag dito yung mga senador o congressman na lumagda kahit blanco, and at the same time yun nga, bakit sinong nag-fill in the blanks doon? Kasi sabi mo nga, hindi ito basta-basta trabaho ng technical working group, yung napakahalaga ng mga blanco eh. Napakahalaga ng mga, kumbaga, dapat yung mga taga kongreso mismo yung naglalagay doon, hindi lang basta-basta kasi hindi sila binigyan ng kapangyarihan na ukol dyan. Meron bang possible, gaya nung nabanggit ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, naniniwala ka ba na may paglabag dito at questionable at unconstitutional na may tuturing itong 2025 national budget?
Well, yung unconstitutional, ang Supreme Court lamang ang makaka-determine yan. Kailangan nating makuha yung dokumento, yan dokumento na parang ito, privilege speech ni Congressman Ungab, no? Yan dokumentong yan, yung dokumentong pinagbotohan sa plenaryo, at yung enrolled copy. Doon lamang natin malalaman, talaga bang walang blank? Talaga bang na-fill up? Kailan fill up? Pagkatapos magbotohan o bago magbotohan? May problema tayo kung pagkatapos ng botohan kasi insertions lahat yan. At pag insertions, alam mo naman na karamihan dyan pork barrel ng mga congressman at senador. Unconstitutional ba? Well, again, sa aking pagtingin bilang dating nananabaho sa Kongreso, ngayon ko lang nakita ng ganitong kagarapalan na may blank. Dati may blank pero hindi nila hinahain para pagbotohan sa plenaryo, kinukumpleto yon. Kung ito ay yung mga blank hinain sa Kongreso at sinabi na lamang na hindi, okay lang yan, habulin na lang natin. Medyo mali yun kasi ang power ng plenaryo ay napakahalaga. Ang power ng plenaryo ay hindi equivalent sa power ng chairman ng Appropriations Committee o ng Finance Committee. Ang power ng plenaryo ay representative of all the members of both chambers. So, kung makitang may pagkakamali na ganito, biro mo wala pang 1 month, ganitong kababoy ang ginawa nila sa budget natin. So kung ganito silang kagarapal sa budget natin, siguro kailangang maglabas na ng tunay na public record tungkol dyan. Kasi lahat naman itong mga ito itatakbo para sa Mayo, no? karamihan sa kanila re-electionist. So mahalaga sigurong balikan natin yung document at saka yung proseso. And at what point hindi naging kumpleto ang documents?
Oo, and kanina rin nagbigay muli ng pahayag si Super Ate ng Pangulo at yung naging privilege speech niya last December 18 ay pinapanindigan pa rin niya kung saan nabanggit nga niya doon kung papaano ba naman siya pipirma sa blanco at kulang-kulang na papel na nagpapatunay doon sa sinasabi ni Congressman Ungab na meron niyang blanco at pirmado pa. Sabi pa nga niya, tanungin na lang yung iba na mga senador na pumirma dito kung meron nga bang kababalaghan. So far, wala pa tayong naririnig doon sa mga pumirma na kasi ang vocal lang din dito itong si Amy Marcos na sinabi niya blanco at saka itong narinig natin pati yung mga PDP laban ng mga senators na nanindigan sila na hindi sila pumirma kasi nga meron silang question doon sa budget. So ibig sabihin ay sinungaling din itong si Marcos kung pagbabatayan natin itong sinabi ni Marcos Jr. doon sa kanyang komento kay PRRD, di sinungaling din pala ito si Amy.
Oo, alam mo, ah, kung maayos yung proseso, I doubt very much kung magkakaroon kayo ng member ng Senado at member ng House who will go out and say there were blanks. December 11, kinuha yung botohan. December 18, nagsalita si Senator Amy. Tapos itong si Congressman Ungab dito sa first week ng resumption of Congress, no? Mga insiders itong mga ito. Si Congressman Ungab naging chairperson ng Appropriations Committee. So hindi yan basta-basta. Ang kapatid ay lalo nang hindi basta-basta yan dahil kapatid. At ang pananawagan ayusin. Kung noon pa ay ang pananawagan nila ay ayusin at hindi naman na-cure nung paggamit ng line item veto, talagang magdududa ka ano bang klaseng dokumento itong budget na ito sa 2025, no? Nakaka-alarm yan kasi 6 trillion yan eh. So, ilan ang bakante, ilan ang blanco, at magkano ang total amount noon. At kung sinasabi nila hindi na yan bakante nung umabot sa kanila, ang tanong, sino na ngayon nag-insert? Ang nag-insert ba si Congressman ko at si Senator po? Mas lungkot yon kasi parang iniinsulto na ang plenaryo. Alam mo ang Kongreso, any decision made by the chamber is actually by plenary. Walang batas na pumapasa diyan, walang reconstitution ng committee, walang paggawa ng committee, walang pag-abolish unless approved by the plenary. Ito nakakalungkot kasi it would appear na dahil sa pagkabigay ng akap ang mga senador ay tahimik. At dahil marahil may consent ng liderato ng Senado, kaya tahimik. Pero very telling ito kasi dalawa ng isang congressman at isang senador ang nagsasabing may mga bakante. Uulitin ko, hindi yan practice sa budget process. Oo, nangyayari yan, pero kalimitan, pinupunan yung blanco bago magbotohan. So ang binibigay sa plenaryo ay committee report na kompleto, walang bakante. So kung makikita natin yung mga dokumentong yan, kailangan magsalita ang lehislatura, hindi ho ang executive. Unless sinasabi ng executive, okay na yan, naayos na namin. Which means, kung ganon ang kanilang intent, yung blanco will be the herbal room. Kukuha ka ng budget dun sa blanco para mo i-boost. Hindi naman sa atin nanggaling yung word na boost. Kaya ako nagulat dahil this is the first time I've heard of a budget being boosted. Eh, kung hindi mo nga na-cure nung line item veto mo, imaginein mo being boosted, saan mo kukunin yon? So process ng realignment, at the start of the year, magre-realign ka. Di ba? Nakakabahala yon. Dahil lahat ng programmatic programs ng budget na yan, it can easily be changed by the executive branch. So that in itself is a blow to the power of the purse by Congress.
Baka gusto niyang i-boost kasi nga pati rin siguro siya hindi siya naniniwala niya yung pagtaas ng budget sa education pati yung sa PMA, PNPA kasama sa education. Kaya para siguro na ma-justify na yung na mapataas yung budget sa education natin. Pero Prof, yung nabanggit dati pa ni Pangulong Pangulo Inday Sara Duterte, magtutugma dito sa pangyayaring ito ngayon?
Oo, Admar. Kumbaga dati pinagtatawanan na sinasabi na si Vice President, pait lang ulo niyan. Medyo may mali sa pag-iisip niya. Clearly noon sinabi niya, at may dokumento siya noon, sinabi niya na ang 2 tao lamang ang may importansya dito sa ating budget process at pinangalanan niya yon. Ngayon, meron kang smoking gun that proves to everyone na sila talaga ang may say. Ang nakakalungkot, sana ang Senado naging fiscalizer dito, pero dahil nga meron kang Senate President na naandyan na almost halos siya na ang naggagabay kay Senator Po dahil bago lamang siya dyan sa Finance Committee, makikita mo na I scratch your back, you scratch mine. May log rolling na nangyari. Bigyan nyo kami ng akap, pikit mata kami. Diba? Nakakalungkot yun kasi ang parati natin sinasabi kaya maganda ang bicameral Congress dahil may isang nag-check rin dun sa mababang kapulungan. Right now, they're on the same boat kasi hanggang ngayon walang reaction from the Senate President or the Speaker. Ang dali mo namang i-present yung BICAM report.
Oo. And maiba lang ako ng topic, Prof. Bukas ba dito sa Pilipinas? Kasi Lunes, no? Magkakaroon na ng pagpapalit ang Pangulo ng Estados Unidos. Pero nakita natin yung kaibahan dito, no, in terms of lalo na sa pangangalaga sa pananampalataya nitong Trump administration and sa Biden administration. Meron lang akong ipapakita na clip, Prof, mga 7 minutes ito na naisiwalat sa US Senate kaugnay sa pag-weaponize sa DOJ at FBI laban sa mga simbahan, laban sa mga people of faith, at laban dito sa mga pro-life group. Ito, panoorin natin.
Senator Raleigh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, welcome. Congratulations on your nomination. I'm so glad that you've been nominated, as we discussed when we had the chance to meet.
Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure to work with you as a State Attorney General for a number of years, and I'm delighted to see you here today before the committee. I look forward to your confirmation. You will be confirmed. I, too, have taken note of the number of times you have been asked about weaponization of the Department of Justice as if it was a theoretical possibility that might happen in the future. One of my colleagues on the other side said, weaponization may well occur under your tenure. We all know that weaponization has occurred like we've never seen before in American history under this administration. And I want to get even more specific. In the last 4 years, this administration has carried out an unprecedented attack and campaign against people of faith. If you look at the numbers, we've never seen anything like it before in American history. It has been one of the most disgraceful chapters in the history of the Justice Department and in the history of the FBI. And I hope that you will reverse this and do right by every American citizen, including especially people of faith. Let me give you some specifics. After the Dobbs case was decided by the Supreme Court, over 100 pregnancy care centers and over 300 churches in this country were attacked, vandalized, firebombed. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many prosecutions Merrick Garland's Justice Department brought in those cases?
I do not, Senator.
It's a stunning number. It's 2. Hundreds of churches, hundreds of pregnancy care centers. And I might just add, these pregnancy care centers, the attacks on them, which were violent, which were gruesome, were egged on and encouraged by rhetoric from members of Congress, including members of this body, who have said that pregnancy care centers aren't real medicine, that they're not real doctors. They have legitimized these attacks. And the same thing was true of churches. And this Justice Department couldn't lift a finger to defend these Americans, but at the same time, they used legislation, a law known as the FACE Act, to prosecute at least 53 different pro-life demonstrators, including people like Mark Houck from Pennsylvania, whom this Justice Department sent a SWAT team to his door in the early morning hours. He has, I think, 7 children. In the early morning hours, an FBI SWAT team shows up at his door to take him into custody and prosecute him. By the way, he was acquitted. This kind of outrageous, disparate treatment has to end. So here's my question to you. Will you protect churches and pregnancy care centers when they are targeted for violence, when they are targeted for intimidation, when their members or parishioners are threatened with violence or other acts of illegal behavior?
Yes, Senator.
Will you stop the disparate treatment of Americans on the basis of religious faith?
Yes, Senator.
Will you stop the deliberate persecution of pro-life Americans for nothing more than their pro-life beliefs?
Yes, Senator.
Will you ensure that nothing like the Mark Houck case happens again, that Americans do not have SWAT teams arriving on their front doors with armed weapons to terrorize their children and their spouses, only in the end, of course, to have the case lost because there was nothing to it? Will you put an end to that kind of deliberate intimidation of the good American citizens on the basis of their religious beliefs?
Yes, Senator.
I'm glad to hear you say that because we need it. We need it. Ms. Bondi, we need a new chapter at the Justice Department, and we need it quickly. And I'm glad you're committed to it. Now, I also have heard you've been asked about your comment that you thought that in some cases we need to investigate the investigators, the ones who were bad. You know, I have to say I'm glad to hear you stand by that. We need to do that. You need to do that. And I'll give you another example. I'm sure you've read about this memo, which I now hold in my hands. This memo that was developed by the FBI field office in Richmond, Virginia, 23rd January 2023, targeting Catholic parishes for spying, for recruitment of infiltrators. I mean, the memo goes on and on and on about the FBI's plans to put assets into Catholic parishes, into choirs. This is an unbelievable, unbelievable assault on Americans' First Amendment rights, and we only know of it because of a brave whistleblower who came forward and released it to us. And I will tell you, I have never been misled and lied to like I was by the current Attorney General and the now former FBI Director when they sat right where you're sitting now and told this committee, oh, we don't know anything about it. Oh, only one field office was involved. It was the single work of a single field office and a very few individuals. As it turns out, that's not true. Multiple field offices were involved. Multiple individuals were involved. Under your leadership, will you put a stop to the use of FBI or Department of Justice resources to try and recruit informants and spies into Christian churches or any church or house of worship in this country on the basis of nothing more than faith?
Of course, Senator.
Let me just say this. To our knowledge, no one who was involved in the writing and performance, execution of this memo has been disciplined or fired. Will you conduct an investigation, like you talked about, Ms. Bondi, that will get to the bottom of abuses like this? And to be clear, this is an outrageous abuse. It is an outrageous abuse. One of the worst abuses of Department of Justice and FBI authority in our history. Will you conduct an investigation to find out who signed off on this, who approved it, who advocated for it within the Department of Justice? Will you open the books on these abuses so that the American people can have confidence in their DOJ?
Senator, and I think what you're talking about is the ultimate weaponization, what we've been discussing all day. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, one of the first things I will do, there'll be many, but I will personally read that memo, and if Mr. Patel is confirmed, discuss it with him right away.
Fantastic. And will you work with this committee and our relevant subcommittees. I'm going to chair a subcommittee called the Crime and Terrorism Committee. We're going to do our own investigation into what happened here at the FBI and the DOJ. Will you work with us as you discover the nature of these abuses, and as you put a stop to them, will you work with us to make sure the American people get all the facts and this never happens again?
And Senator, yes, I look forward to working with you and the Democrats. I would think this is something that we can all agree on both sides, that this should not be happening in the United States of America, and work together on it.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you one other question here in my just few seconds that are remaining. This memo targeting Catholic parishes repeatedly refers to as an expert source a group called the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center has a long history as an anti-religious group that has repeatedly gone after conservative and religious organizations, called them hate groups, called them sometimes terrorist groups. They're cited in this memo. They once infamously, the SPLC called the Family Research Council a terrorist hate group, and an armed gunman came into their lobby and opened fire. Will you put a stop to the use of the SPLC as an official source for any Department of Justice memorandum or finding?
That will be one of the first things we will look at as well, Senator, and report back to you and the committee.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ayan, Prof, ang naging pagdinig no sa confirmation ng bagong Attorney General. Okay. Ano kaya masasabi ni Professor Malutiki ukol dito? Kasi nga, ang tinatarget ay mga simbahan at pro-life, kasi parang mas more sila yata ang Biden administration sa ang tawag nito, abortion. And yung mga nabanggit na nag-i-espiya, nag-i-infiltrate sa choir, ganito talaga ang nangyari sa KOJC. Prof, ano masasabi mo rito?
Well, alam mo, Admar, yung weaponization, bahala yan. No, yung nangyari sa KOJC ay dapat yan magbukas ang isip ng lahat ng religious organization, dahil ito'y pwedeng mangyari sa kanila. Hanggang ngayon, walang klaradong eksplanasyon kung bakit. No? Ang sinasabi, may kasong final. Nung una, ang naratibo ay ang kaso ay galing sa US at wanted siya ng US. Nung lumabas na wala na yung kaso sa US at na-dismiss, hindi natin maintindihan kung bakit patuloy pa rin ang panggigiit ng DOJ. Ang NBI na weaponize rin. Biro mo, ang Vice Presidente pilit nilang papuntahin sa kanila para mag-explain doon sa sinabi nila. So, nakaka-alarma yan. Meron ring isang nakaka-alarmang legislation na tungkol dyan sa religious belief na bordering into something na hindi natin magugustuhan, yung Senate Bill 1979 or the Prevention of Adolescent Pregnancy Act of 2023. Ito ay pinakikitang anti-teen pregnancy bill, pero merong nakatago doon na Curriculum on Comprehensive Sexuality Education, no? So makikita natin ang armas, ang lakas ng Estado ay ginagamit para sa pagsusupil ng mga religious belief. Dapat yan sa demokrasya, lahat ng belief should coexist. So itong ginagawang hearing sa Committee on Confirmation Process sa US ay mahalaga nating makita dahil nakikita natin nangyayari sa atin at patuloy ang paggamit ng Estado sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno para kitilin ang mga sa tingin nila ay kalaban nila, sa tingin nila ay hindi nila kaalyado.
Oo, tsaka alam mo naman na ang Biden administration at yung kasalukuyan administrasyon parang halos magkakahalintulad yung mga galawan na Prof, at ito nga buti at naibulgar din ito. And ano yung asahan naman ng ating mga kababayan dito sa panibagong presidente ngayon na medyo nakita natin na halos taliwas talaga. Tapos kumbaga parang in reality itong si Trump, no, kung magsalita kung ano yung mga dapat na maisulong, lalo na dito sa mga sa pananampalataya, dito sa mga pro-life na ito. Tapos sa kanya maibalik yung TikTok na ban doon sa Amerika. Ito na ba ang muling uumpisa na muling magkaroon ng magandang tahak ang Amerika at less na yung pang-aabuso at pakikisawsaw at pakikialam, kasi ang target ata ni Trump mas focus siya doon sa kanyang bansa kaysa sa makialam sa iba.
O tama ka, Admar, no? Nung kampanya niya, 3 issues ang tinandigan niyan eh. Ang una, ang economic life ng mga Amerikano na mag-improve. Ang pangalawa ay ang susunod na henerasyon kaya maging competitive, kaya nga Make America Great Again, MAGA. At ang pangatlo ang pagdadala ng mga Amerikano pabalik sa Estados Unidos. Ito yung mga sundalo na naandyan sa mga iba't ibang parte ng mundo na kung saan kasama sila sa kaguluhan. Napakahalaga na makita natin na pag sa Republican kasi ang usual features niyan small government, allow the private sector to grow, less red tape, less legislation, very conservative ang kanilang cultural and religious norms. Hindi yan liberal na katulad ng si President Biden, no? Sa tingin ko magbubukas ng another chapter sa ating diplomacy ang pag-upo ni President Trump. Kasi kilala naman natin si Mr. Trump as essentially a businessman who wants to deal, to negotiate. And parati ang iniisip niyan win-win. Hindi yung ako ang bida o kami ang magaling. Tama yung sinabi mo, yung tungkol sa TikTok, he would always try to reach out and strike a deal. So napakahalaga na meron tayong kaibigan sa Amerika. Ba't ko nasabing kaibigan? Kasi parte ng kanyang naratibo ang paggalang at pagtingin sa mga policies na ginawa ni President Duterte. Pareho sila tungkol sa role ng anti-drugs, ng ayaw niya ang droga, no? Pangalawa, napakahalaga sa kanya ang diplomacy na nag-uusap, na you try to reach out. Pangatlo, maganda ang samahan nila. Katulad ng sinasabi ko sa iyo, yung naging bisita natin dito si Mr. Trump, makikita mo yung relational nilang dalawa ni PRRD na nakakapag-usap sila. Alam mo, mahalaga yung natatawagan mo ang pinuno ng isang bansa kung may problema. At hindi ka lang through channels. Napakahalaga yon kasi kung kailangan mo ng united front on an issue, ay magkakasama kayo. Again, Admar, mahalagang makita si Mr. Trump as the second time when a president sits on a non-consecutive term. May nangyari na nung una, pangalawang presidente itong si Trump na hindi magkasunod na term pero nakabalik uli. At napakaganda nung kanyang campaign plan. Hopefully itong second time around mas maayos kasi alam na niya how it is to be president at how it is to be pursuing diplomacy more than an agenda of war.